Your struggle has a purpose. God has a plan and a lesson within your trial. When going through suffering, which is inevitable in this life, it may seem like it's no good. What's the point? But God has a plan in the struggle. I think of the verse from 1 Peter 1, 6 through 7. It says, "In this you greatly rejoice, though now for a little while, if need be, you have been grieved by various trials, that the genuineness of your faith, being much more precious than gold that perishes, though it is tested by fire, may be found to praise, honor, and glory at the revelation of Jesus Christ." There's three examples I'm going to give about why trials are ordained by God, meant to test you for the betterment of your soul, and why suffering can be used for good. One has to do with chicks, one has to do with pressure creating diamonds, and the third has to do with gold. The first example I'll give, I was with my mom who was attending to some chicks that are being hatched from day 0 to day 21 and beyond, going from just a little yolk with an egg to forming itself into a full-on chick. When watching this chick grow, and multitudes of them, it dawned upon me that the persistence and perseverance required to overcome a trial is very similar to that of a chick breaking out of an egg. A chick cannot be helped in breaking out of its egg, or else it'll be too weak to stand on its own 2 feet or live amongst the other chicks or live out in the open. That's why it needs to build the perseverance and strength to break out of the egg and not have assistance of anyone else. It's tough to watch too, because from the outside, you're like, I just want to help this chick get out of this place, get out of this egg and break open, break free, but it needs to crack itself out. And similar to us, when God, we think, doesn't answer a prayer, rather, he's saying, I need you to grow and grow within a specific situation so you can withstand that and become the man I need you to be, aka God needs you to be. And so God does not help us for a particular reason, because he wants us to become strong and persevere through what we're going through so we can learn a certain lesson, so we can stand on our own 2 feet. So it's not like God's neglect is a stiff arm in a way. It's actually meant for our good, because who are we to even question God? His ways are far above our ways. His understanding is far above our understanding. If the creator of the universe does or doesn't do something, who are we to question that? Right? So that's the first example. And it was amazing to see this whole time lapse of this chick breaking out of this egg, just to realize this and relate it to 1 Peter 1, 6 through 7. Secondly, what does gold have to do with us? If God said we are more precious than gold, and God does that in scripture sometimes, he says we're more precious than birds, we're more precious than gold, but he gives these examples so we can understand what he's saying about these analogies, about our life, and connecting the analogies to our life. And so he says, you are more precious than gold, but persevere, right? Tested by fire, persevere through this trial, just like a fire is trial and trial is fire, so it can prove the genuineness of your faith. How can we be made more holy if we're not suffering? Comfort doesn't add to our holiness. Comfort doesn't add to our sanctification. It's the moments that are hard, it's the suffering we endure that makes us more holy and like God. Look at what Jesus went through. He went through the most suffering, the most anguish ever on human existence, but it was all for the most glorified position ever, and to where all glory goes to him now because he suffered for the sake of all sins, of all sinners. And so that's the second point. And when going through a trial, just like gold is purified in fire, look at what happens too. There's something holding the gold to remove its impurities through the fire. God is always with us in our struggles. Never forget that. Just because it's hard, or just because he does not do a certain thing that you may think you need, he's doing something way better because his ways are far beyond our ways. Third example is pressure creates diamonds. I've always been fascinated by pressure creating diamonds. Why? Because how does pressure even create diamonds? How does heat create a diamond? What starts as a substance in the core of the earth, through pressure, temperature, carbon, and a few other elements, creates a purified diamond that shines so bright and reflects light off of it that it is so magnified that people seek after it so much nowadays, that it's such a pure, unique element that is even used for rings in marriage. And so that is another example of our trials being of significance because if it wasn't for the pressure and the heat, the substance could not be made into a diamond. And so just like in our lives, we can't be made into the people we need to be if we're not given pressure, heat in relation to us. That's hardship, sacrifice, suffering, difficulty, all meant to make us pure, all meant to show us lessons of what God needs us to see. Because how are you going to learn a lesson if you're just sitting back on a couch doing your own thing in your own comfort? We have different revelations, perspectives, experiences when pressure is brought about in our lives and it requires a certain reaction by us to stand up to what the situation is requiring. Just like the chicks cannot be helped when breaking out of the egg, certain moments require God to not assist us, even though He is all perfect and powerful, can help us in any moment. That goes to show how caring He is and how particular and detailed He is to not help us in certain situations so we can learn what is needed through that circumstance.